concern, well, not concern, but confusion perhaps is the word, surrounding what exactly this system is called. Is it 26333, 2663 formula? And really the substantive question behind it is that it frames our thinking in terms of how many years of schooling
in each space.
Yes, one is spending in each space. So would you clarify that?
I think I would appreciate that. Yes, we have 2 years of preschool, because we realize that in the 844 we never considered preschool, which is a foundational stage for any learning in the whole world. And research has shown that if you give a child a very good education at preschool, foundational engagement, then it helps them in their later years of learning. And so, yes, we have the 2 years of preschool or pre-primary, and then we have...
Is this the preschool that has baby class, pre-unit, nursery?
And that is why I'm not calling it a nursery school. I'm calling it pre-primary, because pre-primary focus strictly on the 2 years before you join primary school, which should start, at 4 years. That is preschool.
At age 4. At
age 4, pre-primary. That is, I think, standard, probably across the world. Then
I would argue that is a little late.
Yeah.
To start
especially those who
in an
take
education
kids to baby school.
Yes.
Well, that's why I'm not talking about baby school. Baby school starts a little, I don't even want to call it a school, but baby class could start a little earlier. But within the learning system, children should start that preschool at around, when they're about 4 years. I think this research has shown this, all over the world. But because of different complexities that exist in societies, people can even start at age 1 because of different reasons. Maybe they don't have somebody to be with the child at home, and they take them to some daycare center, and when they take them there, they're introduced to some basic elementary. So, that is not part of what we are planning for. Then we have 6 years of what we can call primary schooling, and 3 years of junior or junior secondary, and 3 years of senior secondary. I have a problem with the last...
the tertiary.
I have a problem with that, because even if you look at the 844, we have 8 of primary, 4 of secondary, and then 4 of...
at the university. Essentially.
4 of university. Now look at our system now. Of the 570,000 students who sit from 4 exams, how many go to the university? I think then that makes us...
This year we actually have just about 88,000.
That makes us reflect what happens to the other 400 and something thousand. So if you have, you organize education in a manner that you focus on the structure, then there's that large percentage who will not fit within the 4 that will feel that they don't belong. And therefore everybody starts feeling that you only become a valuable Kenyan if you achieve that 4. But you have a large number, for example, some go to tertiary institution where they do 2, some do 3, and they still come out to be valuable. So the way we conceive that last 4 of 844 is part of what has distorted our learning, where anybody who does not fit into the 4 feel that they have failed. Yet that is not the case. So even as we conceive the basic education curriculum framework, we have to make the tertiary very flexible. Because again, somebody can decide to start with 2, then later proceed to another 1 or 2, and then move on with their learning. So we need to make the tertiary education flexible for it to serve the society better. So we have to be careful how we... About
the last 3. So what is the system called? Is it called 26333?
Yeah,
what would you call it?
And that is exactly what I've been trying to explain.
But what is it? Does it have a name? I mean, 844 was the name that we, sort of rallied behind.
We hope we'll move away from that name, but you can call it 2633. That is for basic education. Now for tertiary, I think we better leave it flexible.
2633, okay.
The way you explain this, it sounds very glittery and nice, and everybody would wish that they transition to that level. It reminds me of the period preceding the promulgation of the new constitution.
Yes.
The proponents were telling us how it's good and all the rest. Up to now, we are still struggling with the implementation.
Yeah.
And some people argue that this new system is a patch-up of so many systems from very many other places.
Yes.
How is that going to be implemented successfully?
I think the good thing that we've done, Charles, is that for the first time in this country, we are developing a curriculum from inside Kenya. we have developed a basic education curriculum framework that explains the fundamentals and the foundational skills within which we want to build our curriculum. This has never been done before.
And yet there's a contrary opinion that 844, in fact, though it came about much as a directive, was a very Kenyan system that responded to the needs of a new democracy. It had its faults, yes, but that it was tailor-made to, you know, progress a country and build in students the kind of skills that the country needed to grow. And that this one looks rather Western, including terminology such as grades, etc.
I don't want to sound, you know, but I think you know that a lot of 844 structure was borrowed from the Canadian system. I'm not saying that is wrong, because again, we have to be very local, but we also have to connect to what is happening globally as a country. But what I was trying to say is that this is not a copy-paste from any country.
But have we borrowed from anywhere?
We have not borrowed from anywhere. What we have done...
Certainly you have. The 12th grade system is a very British way of doing curriculum and elementary learning.
Yeah, the British system is what we left much earlier, and they're still stuck to that, because their A-level is still 2 years, and then they still have their secondary. So you can see that we are completely not there. We don't have A-levels, we don't have... So that's why we have done 3-3, because we felt... But again, I think I better clarify that for you to develop a curriculum, you don't do it in isolation. I talked to you about the harmonization of the East African curriculum. So you can see that there was Kenyan bit of it, there was the East African component of it. But again, you have to read. You have to read research and see what happens globally, and compare yourself, where do you fit. So you don't copy, but you read to understand how better you can make yours.
So when you're sitting and plotting what the new curriculum should be and to respond to Vision 2030, just walk us through that process. What are the considerations you're making that are informing the tweaks and major changes that you're making?
I think some of the things that we sit down and look at, first of all, is our constitution. You will agree with me that values, ethics, morality is a big issue in our country that we have to respond to. Unfortunately, this is well captured in our constitution. In fact, we've got, when we were going around collecting data, a lot of Kenyans were complaining that, you know, as a society, we have lost a lot of our moral grounds, etc., etc. This is something that must start early. This is something that you must embed within the way the children learn. And this is done in several ways. When you are planning your syllabus and you narrow it down to specific learning areas, what we call subjects, you have to do it in a manner that the way the teacher is going to teach, what we call pedagogy, reflects what children should emulate. And that means as we train our teachers, we also embed that, when, you know, show them that when you're going to teach, you are supposed to portray some of these values. True, when you're developing the curriculum support materials, you must make sure that these materials have certain issues that bring out values and virtues that the society require. And 3, in the content itself, in the content that children learn, you must make sure that these things run across all learning areas in such a way that by the time the child goes through the process, then inherently they have acquired what they're supposed to, the society expects them to be. This is how we package it, so that it is not just coming to tell them that now you're supposed to be a good child and a good child behaves like this. No, it has to be embedded across through those 3 interfaces of learning. So these are some of the things we consider as we deal with this process.
And so practically, did you, I'm just trying to imagine what, you know, this is an intensive process, Charles, and I think that's also the concern of stakeholders. How can you possibly roll out even a pilot by May? There must have been a lot of time, I can imagine, spent in literally going through everything we have been teaching children, saying these are Vision 2030 goals. How do you pair
these are irrelevant.
These are irrelevant. I mean, how do you
incidentally, I don't know how I can explain it, because incidentally, this is why I tell people that the work that goes on at KICD is fundamental, is significant, and literally impacts on how a country looks like. Because you can imagine those
Should we blame you for what it looks like right now then?
Well, if you have not done well, if the curriculum is failing, then yes, we should blame us. Because you can imagine somebody sitting down and starting to conceive that in this learning area, for example, religious education, this is what a child is supposed to learn in primary within this number of minutes, and this is how it is supposed to be packaged, and this is how a teacher is supposed to present it the following day, the following month, the following year, as they move on until they come out and be who you are now. It is extremely fundamental. As I talk to you now, for the last 1 week, we have been having 400 teachers, university lecturers, college tutors, sitting at KICD with our experts and going through this process. So before we got where we are, even to start talking of a pilot, it has been massive work going on there. And the good thing is that we don't do it alone, because we even bring teachers who are actually in the class. We don't do the syllabus. We lead the process of producing a syllabus. So because we are the experts, we take them through and we work with them. Because they're the ones who teach the pupils and the children down there, they will tell us that, no, on the ground, this is how this is done. So how do we put it in a manner that will be easy for us to implement? So teachers are extremely fundamental. The lecturers are there. Even if you go to KIC now, you will find a lot of work going on there. But we have been doing this for the last 2 years. So before we bring it to the fore, what goes on in the background is extremely intensive.
Dr. John, the current education system, you would agree with me, is almost totally teacher-centered. So much so that if a school has less teachers, they can justify poor performance, etc. How prepared are we to transition into this new system?
One of the fundamentals of competence-based curriculum, all over the world, and that is where we are moving to, is learner-centered. Now, our system now has a problem, because examinations drives the learning. In a system where people focus more on the results in examination, then that examination will drive pedagogy. It will drive how a teacher wants to teach. It will drive the kind of content that they want to teach, because their intention is not necessarily to make you an all-round person, but to make you pass an exam, because their performance and their success is going to be judged based on that. So I'm sorry to say, but even if you pass that exam very well, then go to the university and you become somebody who is killing people in the streets, the teacher will have benefited because you got the grade. So this is part of what we are changing to make learning learner-centered. How do you make learning a learner-centered? You make learning a learner-centered, first of all, by reducing the emphasis on summative evaluation, the exam that we have at the end of every level, and serve some components that can also earn, make somebody feel that they're achieving based on what a child can do. If you're training children and by the end of 1 year, you can see that these children are probably becoming, developing a lot more humility. They're starting to appreciate that they are different, but they're one, etc., etc. Then you're producing an all-round human being, so that they come out and know that as Kenya, maybe we have over 42 ethnic communities. We have those differences, but we are the same because we are Kenyan and we are humanity. This kind of virtues can only be done if we reduce the emphasis on the grade, and that's exactly what we want to do.
What would you then say will be the significant difference between an 844 educated Kenyan and this new system?
Wow, I wish I would answer that, because I think we'll see that when we get there. But what we know is that we are trying to get somebody who goes through this education system being able to do things the way they feel they can do them. We want somebody who goes through that education system to feel confidence and be competent in what they do and feel that they are Kenyan, so that even if they didn't get an A grade, for example, in maths or in biology, but they are able to get that A grade in music, then they feel proud that Kenyans appreciate that they got, they can do music. I always look at this advert, and maybe it's a wonderful example, where this guy, I think it's an Airtel advert, this guy calls the mom and says, "Mom, I know what I want to do. I want to become a rapper." And the mother nearly throws away the
hits the roof.
What are you talking about?
Right.
This is interesting, because imagine your child becoming a rapper. Well, we are throwing a phone because of that. I was reading an article where, I'll give you an example of the UK. They are trying to improve on how they can assess learners who are becoming DJs. Trying to see how can they assess them to make them become better DJs. You know, if I told during my time, I told my dad or my mom that I wanted to become a DJ, first of all, they'll wonder, they'll think you're mad.
Where did we go wrong?
Yeah, so these are the things that we hope as we go on, we can have Kenyans change their attitude and appreciate really that we can do well in any field. But you see, that is changing, because already you can see our comedians. I think a lot of them are being referred to as celebrities, and we watch them, and we see that there are people who have talent and they're earning a decent living. The same can expand to other areas. Why do you watch Nigerian movies?
I don't know. Why do we?
Why don't you watch ours? I mean, so we have to start from the.
But let me just put it out there. I was a DJ.
You are?
Oh, beautiful.
Why did you?
Exactly, I know, right? Things to think on. Okay, so we're just coming up to the last few minutes of the program. Charles, you're including questions.
I actually wanted to ask you: will parents be able to afford? Because now you're asking me that at class 6, I should be able to, if my child decides to be an engineer, he wants to pursue engineering, I should be able to afford some of these facilities that help towards.
No, that will happen at the end of junior secondary. So at class 6, that's fine.
So at the end of class 8 or something? At
the end of grade 9. But don't forget that as it is, the government is already carrying a lot of, incurring a lot of cost in the education. So it has more to do with what the government will be, doing than what the parents will do. So I think we are comfortable with the resources that are being allocated in the education sector. It will be able. Don't forget that even now the government even is paying examination fees for all the children who are going to sit KCP and KCSE. Let's say now for the one for KCP, which is a huge amount of money, it can be put to other areas of trying to improve various aspects of this learning. So resources will be there.
All right, hold that thought, and we'll be back after these messages.